my entire perspective has shifted and changed. You know, people are gonna be like, "Oh, but what gratefulness? Be grateful." And yeah, have I said those words on the internet? I have. Do I believe those things now? I'm I'm okay. You need me? Okay. Welcome back to this channel. It's resident internet psychic medium and spiritual advisor, Mystic Rain. And today, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think I'm going to go somewhere with it. I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of really strong opinions, and I just want to share them. And right now, they're really jumbled, but like I'm confident that it's going to land somewhere with someone. What I was realizing is how much I had it all wrong. Now, do I think that you also probably had it all wrong? Yes, I do. I do think that. Is it my place to tell you you've had it all wrong? Actually, yes, it is. Why? Because I'm making it my place. We've had it all wrong. Look, I'm realizing that I think that the simulation thing is a lot more simple than what we have been dealing with, or at least the story that we've been telling ourselves. Because what I'm starting to understand about it is that, like, the universe, creation, God, whatever you want to call it, has like this it has like a mechanism. It has like a think of it kind of like a machine with an on and off button. Like there's like an on button. However, like you never turn it off ever. Like it's always constantly running. And there's like this idea that like if you understand the machine itself and how the machine runs, then you can perceive the life that you want to perceive. And the reason why I'm saying perceive the life that you want to perceive is that because it's all perception. It's a simulation. It is what we're perceiving. And so if you want a different life or you want your life to change, the way to do that is to change internally. That is why sometimes we'll say, oh, I want a different life. And then life maybe will change, or you'll change various different aspects of your life, but then realize that maybe you're satisfied for a day or two. And then you go back into that sinking feeling that you previously had, that internal feeling of like, this just isn't it. It's because it was never really about the outside changing or you changing the outside. You have to change the inside, and then the outside will change itself to match you. If you change the inside, then there's not a whole lot of work that actually needs to be done on the outside, because the outside will just naturally match what you feel on the inside. It'll match your change in perception. And so one thing I've realized by going through my little internal moment is how much people are like living and sitting in their own victimhood. And people really hate when I say this. Like, there's something about when I call people a victim that they like, that's a real triggering statement, but I'm gonna hold that. People are living really deep in their victimhood, and there's a sense of people refusing to actually let it go. And I understand it from the perspective of like, well, these things happen to me. Why should I let it go? Whereas it's not really about letting it go. It's about going, okay, these happen, but what can I take from it? What did I learn from it? How did I grow to be a better person? What advantages did I come out with on the other side? Because one thing about life is that like we have to accept the fact that we are the creator and we are the ones that are actually creating. And what has happened along the way is that we have dropped our knowing and then we have fallen into this place of like we must believe and we must trust, when really you don't really need to trust and believe anything. You just kind of follow your knowing and then you just sort of get what you want, right? Or perceive the life that you wish to perceive. But what has happened is things happen in life and then we feel like the victim and then everything is happening to us, that people will sit there. Oh, woe me, I can't have the life that I want to have because of all these things that have happened to me. Or woe me, it's going to be really hard for me to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish because of my life of struggle. And people really live that life of struggle as a badge of honor. If you want a badge of honor, there are two ways to get it, okay? There are two ways my victims love to get their badge of honor. Way number one, be poor. The poverty badge of honor is real. People love a poverty badge of honor. I was poor. I had no money. I had no resources. This is how God bestowed life upon thee. And because of this, I am 10 steps behind in life, blah, 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 blah. That is one badge of honor that people love to wear, right? The struggle badge. The other struggle badge is all of these things happened to me and I was a literal victim of circumstance. And then they wear that badge of honor. It's like, who can struggle the hardest? Who can have the worst of all worst struggles? That is the person that wins. And then so people start trying to big up the struggles. Well, you went through that. Well, girl, let me tell you this shit that I went through, right? And people never share their struggle from a place of strength and power and resilience. Typically, when people are talking about their struggle, they're talking about it from the perspective of, and this is why nothing works out for me. And this is why my life sucks. It's not like a, haha, bitch, you thought you got me, but look at me now, right? It's not from like a place of like uplifting. A lot of people like to have a struggle story and then be at the bottom of their struggle story. They like to be their own victim. Now, here's the thing. Just because you were once a victim, as most people were at some point in life, maybe multiple times, doesn't mean you have to stay a victim. And the interesting thing is people don't like to be called a victim, yet they behave like a victim. People like to act like a victim. But then God forbid you call them a victim. Now they're offended. And what that tells me is that there's still something in the spirit that doesn't resonate with that storyline. If you're offended by being called a victim, something in your spirit does not resonate with the storyline that you're holding. So why are you holding it? So people will use their victimhood and say, well, this is why my life looks the way it looks. Well, listen, creator, because that's what you are. You are a creator. And then people will say, well, if I'm a creator, then why is my life like this? Why does it suck? Well, listen, creator, I didn't say shit about what you chose to create. Oh, and that's a hard one, right? Because people go, well, I didn't choose to create this. Something in your vibration matched it. Something in your vibration, yes, chose to create it. And sometimes what happens is that we don't like our creations. And instead of taking accountability for our creations, we then say, oh, it's the fault of something outside of my own. It's the fault of God. How dare he? But what would happen if you took accountability for the shit you created? If you looked at yourself in the mirror and went, no, actually, I'm the creator, and I'm creating all of these circumstances and I'm creating my reality, what would happen if you took accountability for that? I have a heavy suspicion that suddenly your creations would be of better quality. Part of the reason why so many people's creations suck is because they're not taking accountability for that in which they create. So it's sloppy work. If you took accountability for your creations, and that requires you to come out of your victimhood, then you would be a lot more careful with what you created. Now, in everyone's defense, I will say this. So much of the creations are not sitting in the conscious, right? They are subconscious creations. You're creating things and situations and you don't even know that you're doing it. And the reason why you don't really know that you're doing it is because you don't understand how the machine works of creation, how the mechanism of creation actually works, right? Life is your perception. It's like watching a movie or a TV show or listening to a song on the radio. You're perceiving it There's not necessarily something that you have to do, which is why, by the way, animals and plants do nothing. Animals sleep all day and plants do nothing, right? It's not about doing anything. It's simply about perceiving. And when you can understand that it's about perceiving, then you can then control what you choose to perceive, what you choose to let inside of your reality, what you choose to be reality for you. For example, people will say things like, oh man, doesn't this suck? And my thing is like, why does it have to suck? Like, why is it your perception that it sucks? My perception is that, like, maybe it's not what I prefer, but my perception is not that it sucks. But a lot of people will hold a view that something sucks. The amount of energy that goes into having something suck, right? And so when you're doing that, then the next thing sucks, and then the next thing sucks, and then the next thing sucks, versus being like, well, it's not my preference. And because it's not my preference, I'm not going to interact with it because it's like not really my preference. It's kind of like not my thing. And so like, yeah. And then so what happens is because it's not your preference, you just kind of stop interacting with it. And then because you kind of stop interacting with it, it no longer is a part of your reality and you can no longer perceive it because you chose to stop interacting with it. Right. And that is you taking accountability for the fact that you don't have to have something in your reality that you don't like. Right? So something doesn't have to suck. You don't have to hate something. You can just not prefer it. And if you don't prefer it, you can be like, so I don't really want to interact with it all that much. And then by not really interacting with it all that much, it falls out of your reality because you're not interacting with it all that much. To feel like something sucks is such a strong attachment to something that you don't like. And so what's happened is that you've assigned it meaning. And not only did you assign it meaning, you assigned it a heavy meaning, a deep meaning. And so now you're walking through life coming up and brushing up against things that suck versus just being like, that thing over there, do I have a preference for it? I don't think I do because I don't. Just don't really want it in my reality. And so it just falls out of the reality, right? It's about not having such a hold on things and such an attachment to things because it doesn't exist anyway. We care so much about things that aren't real, so much about things that are just perception. And then we gaslight ourselves into thinking that we should be happy with what it is that we have. And I just don't agree with that. People are going to be like, oh, but what gratefulness, be grateful. And yeah, have I said those words on the internet? I have. Do I believe those things now? I think now that you have to be satisfied with what you have. And the reason why I think that is because it's really difficult to do when you are an eternal being. You are eternal. There's not going to be a moment where you're going to get something and go, this is it forever. Oh, I'm now satisfied. This is great. I'm so happy about this. This is it forever. No. That's why there's always the experience of you get something that you wanted and then you're satisfied temporarily because you're good for now. And the reason why you're good for now is because you're eternal. So everything is temporary. And so to get something and then just be happy with it forever, that's not realistic in my opinion, in my new opinion. And I do think that there's a lot of sort of teaching, particularly in spirituality, that that's the way it should be, that you should just be grateful what you have and it just kind of sits there and you never want anything else. And if you want something else, you're asking for too much, right? People will say, okay, I want more money, but be grateful for the money that you already have. And honestly, I'm pretty sure I've probably said that bullshit too. But my thing is or the alternative is that you could just want more money. Why does it have to have an and but to it? Why can't you just want it and then have it? Because it'll come. And that's what I'm saying about it kind of has this machine-like effect, and the machine just works. And the machine works by you saying, I want that thing, and the machine kind of 3D prints it and then gives it to you. But then if you go, I want that thing, the machine will immediately start printing. And then if you go, but then now suddenly the damn machine broke. It doesn't know if it should continue printing or not printing. And it's well, do you really want it or do you not really want it? And it's kind of this idea of Maybe we should shut up more often. Maybe we should just say what we want and then like shut up. But we do this thing where we're like trying to always validate and articulate why we want this particular thing, which is why I said that the formula for how you do this is just me equals, and like that's it. Me equals that thing that you want to have. But then after you do that, then you have to accept that, like, in order to accept it into your energy field is you. And what are your belief systems and patterns? So you want money, but do you feel or accept that, like, you can have it, that you can hold it, that you can keep it, that it won't be taken from you, that you're not going to fall back into debt, right? Like, because if you are having all these thoughts that come after it, then you're just sitting in contradiction. So this beautiful thing, I want money, this beautiful thing is then colored by all of these contradictory statements, which is, I can't have it. It's not going to last long. I've got all this debt that I need to pay. It won't actually come to me. How much work would I actually need to do it? People like me never actually get that amount of money. It's like, we don't realize that so much of like the process of trying to manifest something is clouded in nothing but our contradictions and our self-limiting beliefs, right? Like, sometimes you just get it because you wanted it. That's how it works. And it's hard to explain because the human mind will then go, but surely there has to be a phase two, where it's like, I don't think that there is. I think you just want it and you get it. For example, I was having a conversation with my husband, and I'm not going to put all of his business out there, but essentially what he was saying to me was, I really want to make this amount of money. And then he like looked at me like, and then I was like, why are you looking at me like that? And then he was like, well, like, you don't think it's like a lot of money? Like, you don't think it's too much? And I was like, honestly, sounds like pennies to me. And he was like, what? And I was like, go bigger. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, if you can perceive it, if you get an idea of something that you want, 10 times out of 10, 100% of the time, you did not think big enough. You did not go big enough. That was a small dream. You can have what you want. Do you want it? Then like stop there. And I actually said to him, well, stop talking. I said, tell me what you want. And then I said, well, stop talking. And then like I cut him off mid-sentence. He was like, what, why? And I said, because if I let you talk, you're then going to start going into all your contradictions. Yeah, but is it too much? Yeah, but how am I going to find the opportunity in order to get this? Yeah, but nobody will actually ever get this to me. Yeah, but like there's yeah, but you're coming up with all these contradictions, and then you're focused more so on the contradiction than you're focused on the thing that you actually wanted in the first place. Because the thing you want, other people have. It's so interesting working with people because people will say, oh, I want to be a musician. And then they go, well, that couldn't possibly happen for me. I want to be in the public eye. I want to be like a famous musician, but that couldn't possibly happen to me. I want to be known for my music. Okay. But like, that's crazy, right? That's a pipe dream. And I'm thinking to myself, well, like it worked out really well for like Beyonce and really well recently for Taylor Swift. Like, why is that a pipe dream? Like, there's so many examples of how this thing that you want is possible. I want to be rich, but that's crazy, right? Why? Many people are rich, though. Like, a lot of people are rich. And they didn't do any work for it, right? There are some souls that are so rich that they were born into a rich family. They did nothing. They haven't worked their entire life. That was how much knowing that they had. That was their manifestation power, that they were just born into a rich family. They were born into resources and didn't have to do anything about it. So for me, when I look at that, I think, to me, that's like evidence that you don't actually have to do anything. Like, okay, maybe you want to set up a bank account so you have a place to put all that money. But like this idea that you have to do all of this work in order to get something is a product of like capitalism and like the Industrial Revolution. It has nothing to do with spirituality, and it has no metaphysical backing at all. And we have to understand that this is the case by understanding that like literally everything that you needed has always been given to you and supplied to you in life. There's never been a time where life didn't like show up to support you. And people go, that's not true. There's been plenty of times. Well, what I would say to that is like, but you incarnated though. Your knowing prior to incarnation that everything that you would need would be given to you was so strong that you came here as a baby. You came here as a being that had no ability to fend for itself, to feed itself. It didn't know where it was, didn't know where to go, what to do. It just came out. Your knowing was so strong that life would support you that you incarnated as a baby on earth. You knew so strongly that all of your needs would be met that you incarnated with nothing. Now look at you here, having a little bit of something, but still under the delusion that you would somehow end up with nothing.